This guy has one of the most broken abilities in the entire world. He owns a personal dungeon that belongs only to him, and he can build and modify it however he wants. On top of that, he can enter it whenever he pleases. And it gets even crazier. He can trap as many monsters from the outside world as he wants inside his dungeon. My guy is literally kidnapping monsters and throwing them into his own private farming zone. Once they're trapped inside, there's nowhere to run, and the entire dungeon is packed with deadly traps. And whatever survives the traps gets introduced to his fists. The monsters never stood a chance. This lets our guy farm levels like crazy, leaving everyone wondering how he became so strong so fast. So how did our boy end up with such an insanely broken skill in the first place? SEO Yul is the rescue hunter who saves hunters and civilians. Our main character's primary role is a searcher. In the present scene, the team arrives at the incident site where the Bureau hunters prepare to head into the gate to rescue the Epic Guild members. Just as the team is about to head in, a man approaches them with a sardonic smile, calling them hardworking rescue workers. SEO Yul seems pissed off at the sight of that man, who turns out to be an executive of the major guild known as Overcross, Baek Junhwan. With the malicious intent Bayek radiates, this man forces small partner guilds into gates indiscriminately, raking in the cash whether people die or not. To be more exact, Baek Junhwan is a petty old man responsible for countless emergency calls. Our boy, having enough of this old man's bullshit, walks away, reasoning they're in a hurry. The old executive suggests that their guild could offer some assistance, wondering if they really don't need it. SEO Yul is low-key mad at the audacity of Baek Junhwan, since the whole mess is his fault, and he's still trying to boost his guild's reputation like the tenacious bastard he is. Our boy makes it very clear to the executive that they can handle their own business, refusing any kind of help from Bayek's guild. With that, the Bureau hunters head out for their mission, while the old man is put back in his place as his ego is shattered. The scene then takes us inside the dungeon, where a female hunter is trying her best to heal her team member who's on the verge of death. She uses her healing powers, begging her team member not to die on her, and mentioning that she already sent out an emergency signal. But the situation spirals out of control when the dungeon monsters appear, and all of a sudden, the hunter surrenders herself and loses the little hope she had to save her dying comrade because she knows there's no way to escape. She closes her eyes shut, ready to be devoured by the monster. However, fate had some other plans when SEO Yul comes to the rescue at the right time. In a single strike, he defeats those monsters with his spear. The hunter is left staggered, unable to process that she'd been saved, when our boy lends her a hand, asking if she's all right. Just then, the manager of the rescue team announces that the ghouls are swarming in from the way they came and asks SEO Yul to find another exit so they can get the hell out. That's when our boy activates the skill Silent Voice that focuses on sound. This skill assists him in mapping out the dungeon structure through echoes, and that's how he impressively finds another way out. SEO Yul informs the manager that he found another way out. The manager looks like a proud dad at that moment, and without wasting any time, they head to the other route. The manager grabs the girl hunter, scampering along with the team because the monsters are chasing them. The hunter, knowing that she's in no position to complain, feels uncertain about the route they're taking. The manager confidently lets out that their searcher, SEO Yul, might be a D-rank hunter, but his skills are top tier in this country, so she can rest assured. But soon, manager Lee Han regrets praising him too much when they are overwhelmed by ghouls that keep emerging in their path. The manager checks with our boy if that is the right path. While the rescue department is fighting off the ghouls that keep swarming, our guy is certain that this path definitely leads to the exit, or so he thought. The problem is that those ghouls also know exactly where they're headed, so they are being followed by them. But it's a different story if a necromancer is pulling the strings. Therefore, SEO Yul activates his sixth sense, and having felt those eyes on him for a while now, he's certain that there's definitely someone nearby controlling these ghouls. Suddenly, as they're fighting the ghouls, a magic circle materializes, and SEO Yul screams, warning everyone to get out of the circle this instant. That magic circle seems to be the boss monster's doing. On the other hand, the manager asks SEO Yul to forget about him and run, but our boy lands a kick on the manager's back to throw him out of the circle, and SEO Yul himself becomes the sacrifice. As soon as he's trapped inside the circle, our boy's movement speed is restricted. Manager Lee Han decides to get SEO Yul out of the circle, but he's halted by our boy, who warns him not to come any closer. Our searcher requests the manager to leave now, or else they're all gonna die. He commands Lee Han to take the others and get out of here. Manager Lee Han makes a wise decision as he walks away from the life-threatening situation, apologizing to SEO Yul. Smiling, our boy tells him not to act like he's already dead, affirming to the manager that he has no intention of dying today. After the team leaves, SEO Yul is trapped in the magic circle, surrounded by the ghouls, and he knows exactly whose doing this is. He calls out the monster Karacli, the dungeon boss, who was toying with them from the start. The dungeon boss, Karacli, smirks and confesses that was the plan all along. But he's surprised by SEO Yul, who's quite good at running away. Karacli is curious to ask how our boy knew the layout of the temple as well as he does. Our boy doesn't plan on revealing it unless the dungeon boss is letting him live. But the dungeon monster has no intention of sparing such a cunning human. Instead, he decides to just turn SEO Yul into a ghoul. Without any reluctance, Karakli curses our main character, who starts transforming into a ghoul as his health drastically depletes. During this, SEO Yul becomes convinced that maybe this is the end. He low-key regrets that he bluffed for nothing and could have asked for help, so maybe he could have made it out alive. But no, he refuses to be selfish. In those moments, he is reminded of guild hunters who chase fame instead of saving lives. In a world crawling with hunters like that, SEO Yul remembers the hero who saved him. The hunter who genuinely felt apologetic for not being able to save everyone. The hunter who wept over the loss of people. SEO Yul yearned to be like him, just like that bureau hunter who deeply cared for and protected the weak. For that freaking reason, our boy refuses to die at the hands of this monster, and activates all the skills he possesses, including Silent Voice and his sixth sense. At that moment, he desperately searches for something that could save him, anything at all. With the help of these skills, he shortly finds a glowing monument, and then things take a rather surprising turn. Our fella inadvertently stumbles upon and accesses the records regarding a hidden class. Gasping, even SEO Yul can't process that he got access to a hidden class. On the contrary, Karakli decides to put SEO Yul's misery to an end as he commands his ghouls to devour our fella. While our boy is battling a life-or-death situation, the plot turns into intense suspense when SEO Yul receives a notification asking if he would like to change his class to the hidden class, the Labyrinth Architect. Things get stupefying when the ghouls are inches away from tearing him apart, and SEO Yul, with nothing to lose at this point, screams as he accepts the panel's request. Just like that, his class gets shifted and shortly, the tutorial for the quest begins. Our boy gets teleported elsewhere while the dungeon boss is left baffled as SEO Yul vanishes. On the other side, a profile panel pops up in front of our boy, and he learns that his old class, Anonymous Observer, is gone. He realizes that he has reawakened and finds himself in the tutorial zone. SEO Yul is then assigned a class change quest to use the map in order to kill 20 ghouls that have infiltrated the labyrinth. Our guy is confused by the map function when suddenly a map materializes in front of him, and surprisingly, it's easier to read. Our fella reads the map, spotting all the ghouls that are indicated by red dots. SEO Yul understands how things work in the labyrinth, realizing he needs to use this map to hunt the ghouls down within a day. While it might sound crazy to some, for a searcher like our dude, it's freaking doable. The quest begins, and SEO Yul awe-strikingly kills almost all of the ghouls, with only 4 remaining. With only 30 minutes left, urgency presses upon our guy to kill them faster. From our main character's point of view, the tutorial was going smoother than expected. He easily looted a weapon from a ghoul, and after that, he utilized his mapping skills to slowly thin out the ghouls. Undoubtedly, if things kept going like this, he was sure he'd finish the quest within the time limit. That is, until he saw a giant ghoul chasing him. Luckily, unlike other ghouls, this massive ghoul travels alone, but upon reckoning, it was a mystery whether he could even kill it at all. Even so, if SEO Yul has to kill that thing, he needs to take out the other ghouls and buy himself some time. Suddenly, our fellow witnesses that massive ghoul following him like a freaky phantom. SEO Yul gets startled, but still, he's glad that this monster is alone. However, as the plot unravels, the odds are stacked against our dude as that massive ghoul joins the pack, marching forth as a unified force. SEO Yul calls that thing a sneaky bastard, as he at least didn't expect it to join the pack. Never in his wildest dreams did SEO Yul think that not checking the map properly because he was on a time crunch would lead to a worst-case scenario like this. Instead of panicking, our fella decides to keep his calm and revise his plan. To begin, the maximum number of ghouls he could handle at once is 2. Therefore, he needs to get out of there since there is a freaking army of ghouls coming at him. The biggest impediment at the moment is that he's surrounded, which means he has to break through the monsters. But no matter how much our fella thinks about it, he's stuck in a checkmate situation, and he's trapped regardless of any path he chooses. Freaked out, SEO Yul thought he could do this, but he underestimates himself, thinking that it's the limit of a D-rank hunter. But from a rational point of view, the situation is absurd to begin with. He's facing an uphill battle by being inside this tutorial just to become a Labyrinth Architect. Those thoughts act as an adrenaline rush as our boy yells like a maniac, making himself recall that he didn't come all the way here to roll over and die. He activates his sixth sense and fortunately stumbles upon a spin block by linking his sixth sense skill with the map. He's now able to use the spin block through the map. SEO Yul spins his location on the map, which makes it easier to kill the ghouls. Our guy ambushes the monsters using the spin block, moving through spaces like he's invisible. Just like that, he kills the ghouls one by one, and then comes the massive ghoul. SEO Yul strikes that big guy, aiming straight for the neck. However, the giant ghoul grabs his face, but our fella already made it clear that he has no intention of dying. With that, he finishes that monster with a single ultimate attack with his weapon. Just like that, our fella completes the tutorial, and his class successfully changes to Labyrinth Architect. He even gets rewarded with the King of the Labyrinth Sphere. After that, SEO Yul returns to his safe area. Outside the dungeon, manager Lee Han gets frantic, urging to return to the dungeon to rescue SEO Yul. However, the other team members give Lee Han a reality check that the dungeon gate has suddenly vanished, so there's no way to find him. While the situation is tense, our boy comes walking nonchalantly, chewing his ice cream. He approaches his team members, wondering why everyone is so fired up. The team members are rendered speechless when they see SEO Yul walking up to them like nothing happened. Later, our boy checks out the sphere he's got. The sphere is a skill that allows him to imprison opponents within the labyrinth. He believes that this will be his primary skill outside the labyrinth. The S-rank sphere can forcibly imprison enemies within the labyrinth. However, enemies who escape by defeating the labyrinth boss will become even stronger. SEO Yul gets the warning that he shouldn't just recklessly lock up enemies. Since the sphere is invisible to others, he thinks that it'll be easier to trap people inside. But in order to survive against the strongest enemies he'll face in the future, he'll need to fill the labyrinth with more monsters, and stronger ones at that. Now, it goes without saying that the only way to stock the labyrinth with monsters is to kill enemies inside it and activate the King of the Labyrinth skill. This ultimately means that SEO Yul also needs to get stronger. Just then, his moment of contemplation is interrupted by a girl, Yeon-hee, who also happens to be his neighbor. Yeon-hee's mom asked her to give some apples to SEO Yul, and they happen to run into each other. Our fella freaks out after seeing the dozen apples, wondering if it's okay to give him this many. The girl tells SEO Yul to consider it neighborly affection from the past 5 years. As they're walking, our guy asks Yeon-hee about her school, and she responds, saying that school life is always the same. Suddenly, they're distracted by a commotion nearby. A lady panics frantically, asking the police to rescue her daughter who's still in a hotel room. While Yeon-hee is confused since there's no fire in the hotel, our guy witnesses a dungeon break emerging above the hotel. It is known to us that when a gate is neglected for an extended period of time, the monsters inside break through and emerge into the real world. SEO Yul hands those apples back to Yeon-hee, assuring her that he'll take them later. The girl questions the sudden change, and our boy reasons that he has to go to work for the rescue department. Without any second thought, our hero barges into the hotel, but he gets halted by a police officer. SEO Yul shows his rescue department card, but the officer wonders why he's alone. Our guy informs the officer that he'll head in first, and the rest of the rescue team will be here soon. Just as SEO Yul rushes inside, the police officer grabs his shoulder, warning that there's currently a pack of goblins inside the hotel, so it's dangerous for him to go alone. Our fella emphasizes that this is the very reason he needs to go in there. He overheard from the lady that her little child is still trapped inside the hotel, and since the guild hunters who should have been here first haven't arrived yet, he has to go in. With that, SEO Yul fearlessly walks forth, uttering that he's not alone to begin with. It appears that originally the gate in this hotel was assumed to have been cleared by the Hanul Guild, which is in charge of this area. People trust the guilds to clear the gates and go on about their daily lives. But the hidden truth is that guilds don't pay attention to gates that aren't profitable. As a result, dungeon breaks occasionally occur in low-rank gates, leading to tragedies like the one our fellow witnesses, where the staff and people inside the hotel have been brutally killed. With that, SEO Yul activates his sixth sense, asking the goblins to stop peeking and come out already since there's something he wants to test. He patiently waits for the goblins to attack him and shortly activates the sphere. In the blink of an eye, those goblin monsters are sucked inside the sphere, trapped and baffled. Our fellow reminds himself that the current him is the master of this labyrinth, as well as a dungeon manipulator true to his name. Now this is where the real fun begins. A one-star monster of the goblin lineage, the Red Goblin. They are a species that moves around their leader, and in all aspects, they're not much different from regular goblins. However, there's one difference, but SEO Yul is determined not to let that happen. He realizes that these goblins have been playing tricks while he was busy. Wondering if they're getting used to the labyrinth, he finds the situation beneficial either way. The ghouls are auto-hunting for him, but since there are so many goblins sucked into the labyrinth, our hero decides to keep an eye on them as he moves forward. He leaves the goblins to play their tricks, knowing damn well that inside the labyrinth, they're the ones being hunted anyway. Upon reaching the 7th floor of the building, Yul spots little Somi crying as she hides in a corner. Our hero assures the little girl that she's safe now that he has taken care of everything. While he escorts her out, the little girl wonders if he actually wiped out all of the monsters himself. SEO satisfies her with a confident confirmation, knowing that driving the ghouls into the labyrinth was a good move since the ones they caught are basically the ones he caught. As they came up here, the goblins were using their sense of smell to constantly search for hiding humans. If Yul hadn't shown up on time, Somi would have been caught by them in no time. Just then, he receives a warning, alerting him that over 50% of the monsters defending the labyrinth have been annihilated. As they reach the elevator, SEO instructs Somi to take the elevator down alone, reasoning that he has to catch the bad guy who's still left. Pulling out the sphere, Yul finally detects the guy who was the one causing trouble. It was the Red Goblin King. Our guy concludes that all the ghouls will be hunted down by him if this keeps up. making him contemplate if he should make him fight the Labyrinth boss before the ghoul numbers drop any further. But SEO quickly drops the idea when he realizes that it's going to turn into a hassle on its own if the boss loses by any chance. Nonetheless, he decides to go in himself since there's something he needs to check as well. Upon entering, our guy is welcomed by the sight of the place being totally wrecked. Swiping his fingers on the screen, he summons the Red Goblin King in front of him. As they fight, SEO feels his body light compared to his fatigue. The level he reached after awakening as a labyrinth, our guy definitely feels that it is different from before. His original plan was to just test the waters and use the ghouls, but he's confident that he can handle this alone. With that, he lands a fatal blow to the Goblin King. He begins rage-baiting the Goblin King by asking him where his momentum from earlier went. He claims to have invested 2 million won in him and comments that if he's the king of the pack, then he should at least show a fitting performance for one. The thing that made the head of the goblins lose his shit is that SEO asked him if he was scared of him. The beast sprints towards our guy with serious killing intent while he continues to enrage him. As the goblin leaps on him, Yul pulls the thing he had been wanting to test, a repulsion device that is indispensable for any labyrinth. As the monster gets caught in it, our hero bids him farewell before he's mercilessly annihilated. It took 20 gold to install, but SEO finds these traps worth the investment. Moreover, the performance is guaranteed, to the point where he feels sorry for whoever gets caught in it. He's then notified about leveling up, and the pack of goblins he defeated have been incorporated into the labyrinth. As soon as he gets out of the building, he is welcomed by his angry manager, who claims to have been here for a while now. He questions our guy about what he's been doing all by himself, in utter disbelief that he took care of all the red goblins. SEO Yul tells him that he can't remember a thing since he hit his head, and his manager seems to be done with this excuse, demanding to know the truth. Our hero suggests that maybe he'll remember if he buys him beef. They're busy arguing when the manager of the Hanul Guild, Kwon Seong-sun, approaches them. He apologizes for interrupting them before starting the conversation, expressing formal gratitude for cooperating in resolving the dungeon break. With that, he gets straight to his point and indicates that they refrain from giving interviews to reporters regarding this incident. He clarifies that their guild does not want this incident to spread to the public. Before offering to compensate the hotel for damages, Kwon implies that the negative stories will just make the residents more anxious, and claims to make a generous donation to the bureau as well. SEO Yul realizes that these are the tactics they've been using to silence people. Even so, he thinks he's half right. Unlike the bureau hunters, who are mostly made up of D-rank hunters, guild hunters have a broad composition ranging up to S-rank. Because of this, most people naturally place more trust in the guild hunters who hold immense power and believe that they're the ones who will protect them. It pisses SEO off how the guilds exploit that trust, but he knows that this is reality and he can't change it on his own. With a sarcastic tone, he claims to understand him completely before placing his hand with pressure on his shoulder. Our guy didn't plan on making a big deal out of it in the first place because even if he did, it would just get buried quickly once the Hunter Association stepped in, and it wouldn't do him any good to draw more attention to himself anyway. However, he thinks that it would be unfair for him to let it end like that. Therefore, suppressing the urge to beat the shit out of the guy, SEO states that he might have to keep cleaning up the crap the guild hunters leave behind from now on. So in order to compensate for that, our hero demands 10 million won for the donation, hoping that they would at least donate this much. Kwon Seong is blown away as he hears that in utter disbelief. After handling the hotel dungeon break, SEO Yul received 2 days of vacation. He solved the problem all by himself and even extorted money from the guild. Hence, it's a well-deserved reward. The only problem is that Yul's co-workers are looking at him weirdly, but he decides not to say anything yet, because if the word gets out that he's reawakened, things could get annoying. So for now, our guy is focusing on managing the labyrinth. For that, he first needs to use currency to repair the cracked walls of the labyrinth and respawn the monsters. The currency is gold, the universal currency for hunters. It's easy to calculate since the labyrinth doesn't have its own separate currency, but the problem is that it's insanely expensive. SEO calculates the total maintenance cost to be 53 gold, which is 5.3 million won. That's almost twice his monthly salary. Our guy has gathered 80 gold so far, hence he thinks that he should at least invest this much. He's interrupted when Lee Jong-hae from the monitoring department calls him. Yul wonders why she's calling him on his day off and tells her to get to the point as soon as he picks up the call. Jong anticipates that he's spacing out in a park anyway, assuming that he has plenty of time to use his seeker skills. She wonders if he could track down someone for her but hears no response from the other side. Meanwhile, SEO is busy thinking about the labyrinth, wondering if he needs to respawn all the labyrinth monsters. He plans on cutting down on wasting gold and stepping in himself if necessary. He's busy stressing over it when he hears noise coming from his phone. Losing his cool, he barks through the phone, reminding Lee that she's in the monitoring department so she can track down a single person on her own. Jong-hae starts begging him, luring him into it with the reward of beef. Furthermore, she states that once Yul hears who the person is, he'll want to find him himself. The missing person turns out to be Kang Tae-san, which adds to SEO's curiosity. He low-key wants to see him at least once. He's confident that he can find him in no time if it's someone of his caliber anyway. After a while, we see two old men arguing while playing Jengi. One of them gets mad and demands to switch over to Baduk and play again, but the other guy refuses. Meanwhile, our guy stands there as he witnesses the game. He could feel it from far away, but seeing it up close is no joke. The dark red aura that only the powerful awakened possess. With an aura like this, the old man stands out even from a distance. Nonetheless, SEO Yul is a bit skeptical if he's really the guy he's looking for. He looks way different from what he imagined. His thoughts are interrupted when one of the old men, after seeing him staring at the game for a while, asks him if he knows how to play Jangi. As soon as Yul tells him that he knows a little bit, he whispers to him to help him make a move that will beat the other old man, his opponent. Our hero, after carefully examining the game, suggests that he move the chariot first. His words are cut off when something is tossed at him, but he manages to dodge it with his sixth sense. It looks like the old man our boy had been looking for has exposed himself already, one of the only 5 S-rank hunters in Korea, and a hunter known for turning whatever he holds in his hand into a deadly weapon. The old man states that he can't overlook his useless backseat gaming. The S-rank hunter, Kang Tae-san, also known as the Weapon Master, questions SEO if he's from the monitoring department. Our guy reveals that he's a seeker belonging to the rescue department. As a response to this, Tae-san remarks that he has quite arrogant movements for a guide, to which SEO comments that being too talented is his flaw. The old man expresses his dislike for that attitude of his when Jong Hye arrives there, calling out for him. She complains about how she's been looking for him everywhere, notifying him that the trainees are gathered so they have to head back. Tae-san gives up as he agrees to go back. Meanwhile, Jong is curious about how SEO found a person that even the monitoring department couldn't find. Our overconfident hero believes that's because he's highly capable, and with that, he's ready to leave. Until the old man calls him out, referring to him as the arrogant brat, and demands he follow him, knowing that he's a bureau hunter as well. It seems that he wants to verify the arrogant mouth of SEO himself. After a while in the training center, Tae-san reveals that every awakened has their own maximum capacity. It means that no matter how hard a C-rank hunter tries, they can never escape being a C-rank. However, the system cannot define everything because martial arts cannot be fully captured by mere numbers. In other words, the old man means that you can become stronger depending on your weapon proficiency, and that's why the bureau hunters are gathered here today. Among them, SEO Yul stands there unfazed, low-key wanting to go back and figure out his labyrinth. Beside him stands An Si-woo of the monitoring department, who has been receiving Tai's training for 4 months now. Turns out, he's one of the few B-rank hunters in the monitoring department. The old man lets him know that he has potential, and that's exactly why he's standing here now. To test him out, he proceeds to ask him one question, which is what he thinks is required to properly wield the sword he's holding. An believes that overwhelming strength and understanding of his skills are required to properly wield a sword. Tae then points out SEO and demands an answer to the same question. Our guy, without needing to think deeply about it, replies that it's the will to wield the weapon. The audience starts to question SEO's skills, wondering if he's even a trainee. The old man remarks that his answer was careless, asking him if he's sure about it. Yul, on the contrary, is certain about his answer. Even so, he's surprised by how sharp Tae is. Kang admits that he's arrogant. However, his answer turns out to be the correct one. This announcement leaves An feeling enraged as he suddenly bursts out, questioning how something like that would be the correct answer. He refuses to accept this while SEO is confused about why he's acting like a child over a single question. The S-rank old man declares that this is a place where anyone with the right qualifications can stand. And even though it deviates from his original plan, he decides to give the two of them a test. In that test, they have to prove their respective answers. He asks them if they accept this test, to which An immediately responds, accepting it, but Yul refuses, saying that he's good. Tae-san believes that he has no choice but to choose the large young man as planned. However, SEO is forced to reconsider his decision when the old man reveals that passing his test means becoming his disciple. Our guy realizes that he has the chance to become a disciple of an S-rank hunter, which means that he has a chance to become stronger and rise to a high position. Kang wonders if our rookie is feeling a bit motivated, to which SEO gives him a challenging look, letting him know that he's feeling motivated more than enough. In the test, both the competitors have to utilize the skill passed down by Tae-san and smash as much of the ether stone in front of them as possible. The one who prevails there will become Tae-san's disciple. Hearing that it's an ether stone, a stone imbued with magic power that can only be found in the temple, SEO is reminded of how only the powerful awakened can break it. He's confused about what the old man means by passing down a skill, but then he shrugs any doubts off, determined to win at any cost because this opportunity is his. Tae-san announces that he'll be passing down his skill from this moment onwards, warning them beforehand that if they fail to feel anything, they will be disqualified immediately. As the passing down of the skill commences, SEO is unable to breathe due to the ridiculously overwhelming power. On top of that, this is just Tae-san's aura that they have to endure to receive the skill. Our guy feels like passing out, but he manages to witness the power flowing into him. The system notifies him that he has now acquired Serene Mind and mastered Dragon King's spearmanship. The old man, judging by their expressions, believes that they have the aptitude, because normally, people either don't feel anything at all, or pass out shortly after feeling it. An-Su, as expected, willingly steps up to prove himself first, determined to strip Yul of any motivation to step up and challenge him. He's confident that the answer willpower was absolute bullshit. Naturally, the B-rank hunter feels the need to prove himself to a D-rank hunter, though he's a bit confused as to how Yul managed to withstand the skill inheritance with his low rank. The big fella swings his sword with insane strength, causing the ether stone to break ever so easily. The audience is left amazed as they witness this, wondering why someone like him is working as a bureau hunter. The old man realizes that An mastered the Dragon King's swordsmanship and is low-key impressed. Before returning, the B-rank hunter ridicules our hunter by saying that he can't steal his senior's spot without any real tactics. In response to which, SEO wonders how someone can survive if they're always walking on eggshells. The S-rank hunter intervenes as he tells them to save this battle of nerves for later, before calling Yul out since it's his turn next. SEO is aware that even though he talked back, An is definitely stronger in terms of pure power. However, this challenge is not simply about strength but rather about proving their answers. Moreover, Yul's answer was the correct one. He admits that he answered casually, but that's exactly why it is his definite answer. He thinks to himself about the reason he needs to wield the weapon, and the answer to it is already decided. That is to become like the person who saved his life, to feel the same hope he did. That's why SEO became a bureau hunter in the first place. To achieve that goal, our guy has to become much stronger than he is now. Keeping all of that in mind, he utilizes the Dragonfire Heart Piercer and absolutely smashes the Ether Stone, leaving everyone there, including the B-rank hunter, utterly speechless. Our fella casually apologizes to his opponent, saying that he's going to steal his spot after all. The old man advises that no matter what you hold, you must know yourself to unleash its true power because weapons and skills are merely tools. With that, he lets SEO know that he's his disciple from today, and everyone in the room starts rooting for him. On the other hand, we see Yeon-hee being dragged out of her house by a group of bullies. Among them is one of her classmates who pretends to feel bad for her before questioning if she really wanted to help her friend that badly. Nonetheless, she advises Yeon to be careful about who she's dealing with before stepping in. It appears that the poor girl messed with one of their group members called Jin Tae. Jin informs Yeon that she has no friends to help her now because her friend took a dive off the roof herself and is in the hospital at the moment. Yeon-hee gives him a deadly glare, to which he slaps her brutally, warning her not to look at him like that. Just then, a B-rank hunter shows up there, addressing Jin as his young master. Seeing him there, Jin orders everyone to get ready to leave, making sure the girl doesn't run away. The B-rank hunter wonders where they're going, to which the arrogant brat reveals that they're going somewhere empty, so that they can play to their heart's content. Meanwhile, in the rescue department's building, Jong Hae congratulates Seo on becoming an S-rank hunter's disciple. Furthermore, Taeson even told him to pick any weapon he wants. But looking at the weapon he picked, which is a spear, Jong wonders if that'd be enough. Yul is confident that this one weapon is all he needs because there was nothing better than this in the vault. Jong stretches as she rants about it already being past her clock-out time, while SEO is confused if the monitoring department counts just watching from the back as actual work. As they reach near the office, there seems to be a lady who persists in seeing our hunter. She looks desperate and worried. The guard tries to stop her, saying that civilians are strictly prohibited from entering. He suggests that she call him, and that's when SEO walks up there, wondering what's the matter. The lady grabs his shirt as she reveals that their Yeon-hee was dragged away to the yellow belt. Yul's expression changes into an angry one as he questions who took her. As Jin Tae and his gang walk further into the woods, they start to worry if it's safe for them to come this far. But their so-called boss couldn't care less since they have a B-rank hunter with them. Moreover, the arrogant brat wants to check who would win if Yeon-hee fought a monster. He casually throws his hand on Yeon's shoulder, curious to see if she's scared. In order to calm her down, he lets her know that the monsters here are weak. Hence, if she fights with the same energy she used to slap him, she'll easily win. Yeon couldn't take it anymore, so she tries to run away after shoving Jin away. Knowing him, she's sure that he will make her fight, and so, in order to live, she tries to think of different ways to escape. Unfortunately, she's caught by the B-rank hunter, who makes her trip to the ground while she continues to scream for help. Her classmate suggests that she save her energy as there's no one here but them who'll hear her screams. Suddenly, they sense something coming, and the B-rank hunter warns them to step back. That's when the Gooner party gets ambushed, killing one of the girls. Jin is left shaken when the B-rank hunter warns that he should run back the way he came immediately. Turns out they're attacked by a stinghawk. Meanwhile, Seo, who's inside the yellow belt now, is on the phone with Kang Jong-min of the combat department. Our hunter thanks him for listening to his unreasonable request, while Jong-min advises him to take care of himself as he's going all alone. After cutting the call, SEO analyzes his surroundings, only to realize how miserable this place looks. The Yellow Belt is a sealed-off zone where the area became uncontrollable after a dungeon break. The monsters in this zone aren't very strong, but it's said that they're clever, making it hard to deal with them. Now that SEO has fought them himself, he judges that there's just a lot of them, but they're weaker than red goblins. Still, for a non-awakened person, this will be hard to survive for long. That's why Yul is determined to save Yan-hee as quickly as possible. Just then, he's attacked by a group of stinghawks. Having no time to deal with these things since they just keep rushing at him, SEO generates a sphere. The stinghawks summon more of their members, and as they chase Yul, he drags as many into the labyrinth as he can. Though the situation gets a bit dangerous because the labyrinth monsters rapidly start dropping in numbers. Our hunter realizes that he can't drag any more into the labyrinth or else it will collapse. But it's not a number he can face alone either. That's why SEO is left with no choice but to resort to that method. He drags all the stinghawks into the labyrinth and floods it with water by kicking the sphere into the lake. Our fella mourns over the fact that he'll have to repair the labyrinth yet again. This is exactly why he didn't want to use this method. However, his plan works successfully as his surroundings quiet down. On the other hand, Jin-tae along with the others struggle to survive against the stinghawks' attack. While running, the arrogant kid questions the B-rank hunter why he can't deal with these things despite his high rank. The blue-eyed hunter confesses that there are too many for him to handle alone, to which he's told to shut it as they're already lost and him being a B-rank isn't helping them at all. To their surprise, the stinghawks appear in front of them, blocking their escape route. The B-rank hunter struggles to take on even a single one of them when it's killed abruptly by someone else. The guy turns out to be none other than SEO Yul, who questions if they are the ones who dragged Yan-hee here. Jin cries out, wondering who the hell this guy is until SEO reveals that he's a bureau hunter. Yan-hee rushes to his arms as soon as she sees him, while he teases her about seeing her cry for the first time. The arrogant brat calls our bureau hunter out, ordering him to lead them to the exit immediately, and offers to pay him whatever he wants once they're out. Yan, after wiping her tears, tells SEO to ignore that piece of trash and leave. But SEO has some other plans. He apologizes to Yan before knocking her out, deciding to wrap it up quickly and get her home safely. Jin gets worried about what the hell he's doing, to which Yul confesses that he's about to do something he'd rather Yan didn't have to watch. The brat threatens Yul with his family's influence, but Yul, being a bureau hunter, is well aware of who he is. To prove himself, SEO starts opening up about Jin's family background. Turns out Park Jin-tae is the son of Supreme Court Justice Park Bum-jin. School violence, theft, and every other crime in the book has been committed by him, and he just pays his way out of it. Tae is least bothered to hear all this information about himself. In fact, he wonders what SEO can even do about it, in response to which, he's booted brutally, leaving him crying out in pain. Yul believes it must be nice for him to think that money can fix everything. He suggests that Tae try bribing him too before landing another punch, which is halted when the B-rank hunter shows up, defending his master. Jin starts rooting for his savior, confident that he's going to win this fight. After multiple attacks from their side, our hunter abandons the idea of letting them off with a warning, because they just crossed the line by constantly trying to kill him. As the fight commences, the B-rank hunter is baffled as to how he's the one being pushed back by a bureau hunter who's supposed to be a mere D-rank. He starts to wonder if this guy is even a real bureau hunter. Even so, he believes that he can win by closing the distance and cutting him down. As he charges at him, SEO mercilessly punches him right across the face, causing him to drop to the ground unconscious. Jin-tae grabs his hair out of frustration while ordering the B-rank to wake up. He's convinced that the bodyguard bought his license with his father's money. It was then that SEO fully realized that the guy was a certified B-rank. He can't help but wonder if the stats he gained from hunting those hornets have finally surpassed the level of a B-rank hunter. The arrogant brat decides to take matters into his own hands and charges at our guy with a rock in his hand. Upon being smacked by the spear, he cries out in pain. SEO judges that he hasn't been thrashed like that before, wanting him to feel what the people whom he tormented all this time felt. Jin-tae straight up tells him that they should have had power or money if they had a problem with that. According to him, that's how the world works, hence he feels he isn't guilty of his actions. That's when our guy realizes that the world would be a much better place without a hopeless piece of shit like him. He's confident that he can make him suffer enough, which is why he decides to leave him to those who are actually hungry, the monsters. He leaves with Yan-hee in his arms while Jin is attacked and devoured by a group of wolf monsters. With that, the Yan kidnapping incident at the Yellow Belt comes to an end, and she is finally able to return to the arms of her family. Jong-min informs SEO that the corrupted officials from the athletics department, who allowed the kids into the Yellow Belt, are being purged by the higher-ups. It seems that things are going to be pretty hectic for a while. As those officials were being disciplined, news of the incident spread like wildfire across the media. The incident was eventually settled with the resignation of the Supreme Court Justice, Park Bum-jin. Later, SEO is given an elimination quest to hunt down the Queen Hornet and the apex of the Hornet Swarm within 30 days. He recalls the Queen Hornet being the one he saw outside of the Yellow Belt, and he is pretty sure it was her. Since she's protected by her swarm, she won't be an easy target, but our hero wants the challenge. Now that he knows how powerful the Stinghawks are, that they alone have enough power to tear through a labyrinth, he assumes that the queen at the top of the hierarchy must be even more formidable. With that, he announces that he's heading out early when the manager shows up. He's happy to see Yul so active, but wants to make sure that he finishes all of today's paperwork before leaving. Our guy sprints out of the building without responding, which clearly shows that he didn't finish it. He's focused on becoming stronger. He has 1 month until the Queen Hornet's quest expires. The swarm will expand its territory during that time, which means he needs to make sure that he's fully prepared as well. Upon reaching the temple, he's told that he's late by none other than the S-rank old man, who instructs him to get inside as they're starting his training immediately. The master decides to begin SEO Yul's training right away. Our fella learns that he's the direct disciple of this old dude who's the master. The master tells SEO Yul not to let it get to his head, because even if he's a direct disciple, there are still 2 others above him. Besides, the amount of training our dude has ahead of him is a literal mountain. Shortly, our boy partially meets Gun-Si as their eyes meet. The master proceeds to show SEO Yul the jawbone of an Iron Fiend, a unique variant. A unique variant is a mutant or a one-of-a-kind monster that exists nowhere else in the world. The master reveals that this jawbone was the first thing that ever truly brought him to death's door, showing a scar that's engraved on his back. It appears that forcing that jawbone open is our boy's first task. The master, exuding his godly strength, incredibly jerks that jawbone open. Even the old man finds this Iron Fiend jawbone stubborn as ever. Jun-Si praises his master while our fella is left shocked after witnessing the master's muscles, wondering if he's Master Roshi or something. The master then commands our guy to give it a shot. SEO Yul ruminates that he's already beyond the level of a B-rank hunter. He knows for a fact that he might not be able to pull it wide open like the monster, but he's adamant to at least move that jawbone. But self-confidence gets the better of him when he uses every ounce of his power, but that stubborn jawbone won't even budge. Even the master did not expect such results. While our poor fella is struggling, the master leaves him at it and informs him that this training will build his overall physical strength. Also, the old man clarifies that there will be no next stage until he prying that jawbone open. Meanwhile, the trainer Geon-Se is creeped out as he watches SEO Yul trying to pull that jawbone with dogged tenacity, convinced that our dude is a Nepo baby. The scene then switches to Gun-Si's point of view, where he narrates that it's been 2 years since he joined the Martial Arts Association. He worked harder than anyone to prove he's worthy of being a direct disciple, but it turns out that SEO Yul spilled water over his dreams, and in the end, he got the spot. This thing doesn't settle well with him because SEO Yul is also a B-rank like him, but he's some random fellow from the Bureau. No matter how much he looks at it, Gun-Si finds it unfair that our guy took the spot he was supposed to be in. Though he recalls how hard-working our boy is, who happens to be cleaning the temple, Gun-Si is surprised to see his junior up so early. SEO Yul reasons that even on a day off, he's got to stay on top of things. Our boy, bringing out his amiable nature, pats Gun-Si's shoulder, suggesting to him that he can speak casually with him. Looking a bit hesitant, Gun-Si lets out that they can't exactly do the same. He then asks SEO Yul if he cleaned the gym himself. While our boy nods and says that he swept the gym since it was looking a bit dusty, Gun-Si tells him not to do it next time, since it makes the rest of them look bad when the direct disciple is doing chores. Well, our fella doesn't find a problem cleaning this. He assumes that there shouldn't be a hierarchy for stuff like that and elucidates that he had enough time to clean. SEO Yul clarifies that just because he's a direct disciple, that doesn't mean he wants to dump his work on others, reminding the guy that they're all here to get stronger together. Gun-Si is left speechless, and low-key, he finds our guy a bit annoying. After this encounter, Gun-Se keenly observes SEO Yul. He notices our hero showed up every single day for 2 consecutive weeks, staying later than anyone else to train. Despite being the direct disciple, SEO Yul never once threw his weight around or looked down on them. Also, he gets along with everyone else, yet trains like a total psychopath. For this very reason, Gun-Se is even more pissed at him because he's determined. SEO Yul is exactly the person Gun-Se wants to be, and that is what makes him more jealous. After several days of training, our hero musters up the courage to pull that jawbone. However, he fails miserably yet again, but this time, he was very close to opening that thing. Just then, Gun-Se hands our guy some water, advising him not to overdo it. Our fellow realizes that it took Gun-Se long enough to drop the formalities. Abruptly, they're distracted by the sound of a horn. Gun-Se reveals that it's the deployment signal for the Overcross Guild. It appears that the Overcross Guild is heading into a dungeon nearby, which explains the commotion. Our boy is surprised that the Overcross Guild is working this late at night, to which Gun-Se explains that Overcross works 24/7. SEO Yul curiously lets out that Gun-Se seems to know a lot about that guild. It turns out that Gun-Se worked for them briefly. In the morning, the Overcross Guild comes out of the dungeon. Even they're surprised that they got all the work done in a day. We then get to know that their mission was to capture a steel-blood orc. One of the guild members finds it odd they're poaching a dungeon monster like this. Technically, they're not allowed to poach monsters like that, but it appears that dungeon monsters can effortlessly fetch at least 12 billion won on the market. The guild member highlights that salaries don't grow on trees, so they play it smart and get paid for selling stuff like that. Just then, a member shows a tribe necklace he found in the dungeon, asking his senior if it's worth anything. As they're busy chattering strangely, that steel-blood orc makes some movements, signaling some impending danger. While the guild member throws that necklace away, calling it a piece of junk, the giant orc is ready to wreak havoc. Later, a tragic incident occurs, and the rescue department saves the hunters that were injured. Since they're done here, manager Lee Han asks SEO Yul to head back, but our guy seems to be heading straight to the association. The manager insists he come with them since they're having a team dinner. Our fella immediately refuses, reasoning that his master is away today, so he promised to look after the other students. Suddenly, there's an announcement calling out all the emergency teams. It turns out that a 3-star monster dungeon that was being transported illegally has broken loose and is currently on a rampage. To make matters worse, the incident location happens to be the Korea Martial Arts Association. At the Korea Martial Arts Association, the dungeon orc has already ravaged that place. The students of the association run for their lives, but the worst is yet to come. That orc barges inside the temple, causing destruction. Gun-Si happens to be halting that orc, which puts his life on the line. The scene then switches to Gun-Si's point of view. It takes us back to the days when he joined the Overcross Guild, where he truly believed that he was a genius. He justified it by telling himself that exploiting sub-guilds was the natural right of the strong. But the reality hit him hard when he learned that he was just another replaceable cog in that machine. It was only then that it truly occurred to him how cruel the world actually is. Even so, he refused to believe the world is completely rotten, just like the person who saved his life. Gun-Si wishes to be like that person, someone who chose to care instead of moving away. He desires to help someone. He wants to make the world even just a little bit better. These thoughts give Gun-Si enough strength to face that bald freak, and that's how he's managed to endure 2 years in this hellhole. To be a bit realistic, Gun-Si could barely stay on his feet, but he tries his best to hold off the orc as long as it's focused on him. While the other martial arts players run for their lives, Gun-Si faces the monster alone with the little fight that's barely left in him. Just as that orc is about to smack the life out of him, someone makes a dramatic entry through the roof. Well, it turns out to be none other than our boy SEO Yul, who acknowledges Gun-Si's efforts, telling him that he's done enough. Gun-Si appears shocked, yet his eyes exude gratitude and relief. Just like that, our guy takes over the situation from here and activates the sphere. He then enters into the labyrinth along with the steel-blood orc. While it looked like a good escape plan, SEO Yul second-guesses his decision when that bald freak orc aggressively chases him. He regrets putting on a cool front and dragging the orc into the labyrinth. Even our fella admits that orc is more of a monster than he is. He notices something peculiar about this steel-blood orc, wondering if this monster really got done fighting Overcross. He's fazed since he's never seen anyone just plow through labyrinth walls like this. SEO Yul is certain that this monster has earned the title of an apex orc, and taking him on alone right now is going to be tough. In that case, our hero decides to surprise the orc with a little gift. He shifts the location to where all the other goblins and ghouls are present, going for an all-out assault. While that orc is distracted by the other monsters, our dude plans to strike as soon as he sees an opening. SEO Yul is pissed off at the orc for destroying the labyrinth walls, and soon realizes that the normal monsters aren't enough to create a real opening. The situation pushes him to use something he didn't want to due to the high risk. But stalling that thing will just let him use more hardened blood, so he has no choice but to summon him. Well, as the plot unravels further, we get to know that SEO Yul, despite all the risks, decides to summon the labyrinth boss, Kaori. The labyrinth boss and the steel-blood orc fight against each other. In the midst of the fight, our boy seizes this opportunity to find an opening and strikes the orc. However, that bald orc turns out to be more formidable than the labyrinth boss, as he defeats Kaori with his terrifying strength. Due to the defeat of the labyrinth boss, monster respawning is currently unavailable. This makes SEO Yul simmer with anger because his dungeon boss is a nobody now, thanks to the bald freak. He activates the trap, Hail of Steel, which sends an array of steel arrows towards the orc. As the arrows pierce through the orc, SEO Yul charges at the monster with the spear and gets away. He then activates another trap known as the Spike Ceiling, which is the ultimate deadly trap. The Spike Ceiling plummets right onto the steel-blood orc, ripping it into pieces as the blood oozes. Luckily, our fella stacked all the traps in this area of the labyrinth, and that by chance turned out to be the most impeccable idea ever. Just then, SEO Yul receives a warning about the labyrinth getting dissolved if durability drops below 60%, or if all the monsters are eliminated. Our boy knows that losing a boss is a huge hit, but he would have been toast without this place. Unluckily for SEO Yul, trouble just keeps finding a way when suddenly the ground beneath him rumbles, and that bald freak orc breaks through the wall. The orc frantically comes attacking, and the panel warns that it's beginning its final struggle. SEO Yul has to admit that orc has got some grit. Given that this monster is about to bring the whole roof down, he decides to take him outside the labyrinth. The scene then switches to the Korea Martial Arts Association, where Gunsei, gravely injured, manages to evacuate all the students. He wonders where SEO Yul disappeared to, and just seconds later, a hole materializes, radiating a blinding flash. While Gunsei couldn't see the sphere, he could sense a sudden surge of mana in the air, and the next thing he knows, he witnesses SEO Yul and that Steel-Blood orc sparring. The Steel-Blood orc is truly a powerful opponent, but our boy is kinda surprised that he's able to keep up with the orc's attacks, maybe because it's exhausted now. SEO Yul conjectures that the monster's attacks are actually heavier than before, whereas his muscles feel like they're screaming just from blocking. But strangely, his body feels completely different than it used to. Well, that's when the realization sets in that those 2 weeks of training he did weren't for nothing. Although at the moment it feels like he's being torn to shreds, our boy's power just keeps surging through him like electric currents. He could literally feel the growth in his bones. Our guy then charges at the orc with his spear since things are getting intriguing now. He jabs the spear, which wounds the orc, but that bald freak grabs SEO Yul's spear and tosses our fella with brute force. He is sent flying like a football, plummeting onto the hard ground. Even with the weapon broken, SEO Yul has got something up his sleeve to pierce through the orc's hardened blood. Even in a frenzy, our dude is amused that this stubborn orc has still got some brains left. At that moment, he gets distracted by something beside him, not realizing that the orc is scampering towards him. In the meantime, Gunsei jumps in with a sword and pierces it through the orc's arm. He yells at SEO Yul that he's buying him some time to grab a weapon. However, things go sideways when the orc brutally smacks Gunsei onto the ground. Just then, our boy appears, and he's already got a weapon, which is the Iron Fiend Jawbone. With the monster's guard down, SEO Yul seizes this opportunity to strike. This time, he's adamant to take every last bit of energy left in his body and let it explode. It appears that the game is finally over for the Steel-Blood orc because our hero is no less than a monster. With his terrifyingly monstrous energy, Bro successfully pries open the jawbone and chucks it over the monster's head. To everyone's astonishment, as soon as the jawbone hits the Steel-Blood orc, its head is blown away from its body in a gruesome way. After the orc is dead, SEO Yul acquires the unique great item, Demonic Dagger. Nonetheless, our fella is thankful to the orc because, thanks to him, he was able to pull that jawbone open, which also takes him to the next stage of his training. Shortly after, Gunsei's vision gets blurry and everything around him is distorted. As he's about to fall unconscious, a voice pounds in his ears. It appears to be SEO Yul, who tries to wake him up and lends him a hand. Gunsei realizes that it's the senior direct disciple and jerks awake. Our fella is relieved after seeing Gunsei is okay, joking about him having 9 lives. A realization dawns on Gunsei that it was SEO Yul who saved him back then and even now. While our guy doesn't understand what he's talking about, he asks Gunsei to stay down and affirms that everything is over now. The next day, at the bureau headquarters, the place seems to be flooding with news reporters. As soon as director Baek Jun-hwan of Overcross comes outside, the media goes berserk, asking for the director's statement regarding the incident. They wonder if the old dude admits that this event occurred during an illegal monster transport. Baek Jun-hwan steps forward, offering his deepest apologies to all the victims. However, as vile and malicious as this man is, he lies through his teeth and claims that the Steel-Blood orc is a monster of immense research value. Hence, their only purpose was to bring that monster to donate to the Bureau, despite the risks involved. The cunning director refuses to comment any further. In the meantime, a reporter spots SEO Yul, who's known as the Soul Rescuer. The reporter's attention diverts to our hero, questioning how on earth a D-rank hunter was able to take down an orc. But manager Lee Han grabs our guy, saving the interviews for later. Just then, a fat-ass reporter starts blabbering and blames the incident on the Bureau, since it exists to prevent incidents like these. Our guy gets pissed at the guy for spewing such nonsense, but the manager tells him to ignore him since these YouTube guys take money from big guilds to post biased trash. So responding to that shithead is just a losing game. SEO Yul can't believe that they're really playing every dirty trick in the book, which makes him lose his nerve. That's when our guy chooses violence and goes up to that YouTuber who's on a live broadcast. He decides to say something in real time and, going on a rampage, SEO Yul asks that shithead reporter if it feels good to get paid to wipe their asses, referring to all the big guilds. Boiling with rage, our dude fearlessly points his finger at that bastard Beck and confesses that the rescue department constantly cleans up their messes while these guilds leave their shit behind. Right at that moment, the air crackles with intensity, and everyone is rendered speechless. SEO Yul ends his ranting session by calling out director Baek Jun-hwan, asking if he said the right thing. Just then, manager Lee Han pulls our fella by his hair, running from the scene after declaring SEO Yul as a sick guy who's just talking nonsense. Meanwhile, Director Bayek hides his murderous intent and checks with his manager if SEO Yul is the same brat who mouthed off to him before. The manager nods, confirming that it's him. He calls SEO Yul a new puppy who doesn't know to fear the tiger. Director Bayek, having enmity towards our boy, commands manager O to crush that little bastard. Later, in the bureau meeting, the live broadcast goes viral, and ever since then, news about Supervisor SEO Yul has been flooding every media outlet. Manager Lee Han appears kinda embarrassed, admitting that his member spoke without thinking. Even so, he believes that any disciplinary action would be excessive. The manager states that the big guilds are clearly at fault, and it's obvious these videos were staged. Plus, there are plenty of articles that are praising SEO Yul too. Whatsoever, this doesn't sit right with Director Bayek as people are talking about the video, whether staged or not, and it's coming from all sides. The director believes that it's only right SEO Yul gets punished, but manager Lee Han speaks in SEO Yul's defense and says what's meant to be said. He furiously lets out that punishment should go over to the Overcross Guild, or the people who were supposed to manage them. Since Lee Han threw shade at Baek Jun-hwan, the director loses his cool because the rescue department manager clearly suggested they were incompetent. While the conversation between the two escalates into a heated argument, the director of the bureau steps in. Park Gwang-soo confirms from manager Lee Han if SEO Yul's recent rescue success rate is 100%. If that is the case, the director makes it clear that they can't afford to lose a talent like him. He believes that even if they realistically rely on the help of large guilds, they must maintain the dignity of the bureau. Upon hearing this, Baek Jun-hwan wonders if the bureau director has a plan. The director of the bureau is amused by the trick the media and large guilds have played, so even if they can't pay them back in full, they should respond accordingly. Later, our boy gets called up to Director Park Gwang-soo's office to discuss something important. The director brews some tea for him and SEO Yul compliments him, saying he could open his own cafe. Park Gwang-soo then cuts to the chase. He asks out of curiosity that if SEO Yul were to retake the rank test, what rank he'd get. Being honest, our fellow responds that it might be possible that the new rank would be different than his current rank. The director thinks so too because, recalling past events, SEO Yul achieved things that no ordinary D rank could ever do. Park Gwang-soo mentions that it's been difficult for them too, informing our fella that there's no shortage of people trying to dig up dirt on him. At that moment, SEO Yul dubiously stares at the director, presuming about what the director is trying to get at. He assumes that Park wants him to spill his secrets because he's helping him. It appears that SEO Yul is bound to answer the questions by the director. Come to think of it, Park Gwang-soo, the director of the Management Bureau, is a master of politics who has held his position for a long time. With that in mind, our guy recalls what manager Lee Han warned him about. Lee Han advised our fella to be humble and speak honestly in front of the director. He literally begs SEO Yul to not even try playing games with the bureau director for his own gain because he'll end up hurting him. Our boy ruminates that he has followed the department head's advice so far, but this time, he's a bit hesitant. He's kinda skeptical, wondering if he should disclose about the labyrinth too. Just then, his rumination is interrupted by Director Park, who assures SEO Yul that he doesn't need to reveal how strong he's become, at least at this point. But he emphasizes that what's really important is that the bureau needs his powers. So in order to get to the point, Park Gwang-soo decides to send our fella to the countryside. Later, director of the Overcross Baek Jun-hwan gets done with the investigation quicker than expected thanks to the surveillance department. He then walks with coordinator An Si-woo, asking him what he thinks about Hunter SEO Yul. Coordinator An feels it's pointless to comment since they're in different departments. Instead, he curiously questions Bayek why he cares so much about a mere rescue worker. The director's animosity towards SEO Yul is pretty evident when he utters that there's nothing more annoying than a pest right in front of his eyes. Upon hearing this, the coordinator realizes that hostility is the reason Bayek is kicking our dude out to the countryside. Baek Jun-hwan tells the coordinator to watch his mouth and clarifies that all he wanted was for SEO Yul to take a long, hard look at himself. Before their conversation could resume any further, our boy barges out of Park Gwang-soo's office. Director Bayek calls him out and expresses that fate keeps bringing them together, even though they both loathe each other. Baek then discloses the news about SEO Yul being sent to the countryside, since he couldn't wait to keep this great news a secret anymore. While Coordinator An freaks out at the sudden disclosure, our fella feels it's odd that the official notice isn't out yet, so that's pretty quick for an outsider. He questions Bayek if he's stalking him or something. Nonetheless, SEO Yul assures the director not to worry about him, plus it's just a 6-month dispatch. Smirking, Baek Jun-hwan is surprised to see him being so optimistic. He then goes about mentioning how the bureau only dispatches the department head or higher, accentuating that the bureau is only getting rid of SEO Yul. As the director tries to humble our boy and tells him to face reality, our fella drops another bombshell that even Coordinator An is unaware of. He reveals that he's been promoted from 8th to 6th grade, proudly announcing that he's a senior officer now and getting a double promotion at that. SEO Yul rubs this promotion into Director Bayek's face, leaving him utterly speechless. To piss off the old man even more, he points out how Baek Junhwan doesn't seem happy about his promotion, noticing it by the deadpan expression on his face. The director tries to keep his hatred all bottled up and congratulates him. It's just that he didn't expect that the bureau just hands out promotions to whims like SEO Yul. While that old man straight up mocks our boy like that, SEO Yul responds that it shows how desperate the bureau is to keep real talent like him. Smirking, our hunter understands the director's frustration since things didn't go Baek's way. This banter gets a bit too personal, and a lethal intent settles between the two. Coordinator An gets scared after sensing the vengeful spark that ignites between the two and stops them. Director Bayek snaps back, realizing that he spaced for a second. Just then, the director leaves along with the coordinator. As he's walking away, our boy decides to speak his mind one more time, giving one piece of advice to the director. SEO Yul makes Director Bayek realize that his attempt to break our fella by changing his location was a mistake, because no matter where he sends him off, his job as a rescue hunter doesn't change. These words pierced like an arrow through Baek Junhwan, and rage takes over him as he frantically punches the wall until it bears cracks. He couldn't tolerate sass-mouthed pests like SEO Yul. The scene then takes us to Director Park Gwang-soo, where we are taken to the flashback of his conversation with SEO Yul. He elucidates that the 6-month dispatch might look like a demotion or an exile on the surface, but it's not. The director accentuates that our boy needs to show results while he's there, because that's the only way to keep those outsiders from touching him. Park Gwang-soo notices that SEO Yul seems to have something else on his mind. That's when our dude requests the director to send him somewhere that actually needs him. These words leave quite the impact on the director because he can't believe that SEO Yul would say this in a situation like that. That makes him believe that our guy is different. Meanwhile, in the rescue department, chaos breaks out when the team learns that SEO Yul has been promoted to a senior officer position and is even being sent to the countryside in just a day. But manager Lee Han already knew about this. A member freaks out because he couldn't imagine their rescue missions without their main guy SEO Yul, but the director declares that they just have to do their jobs like they always do. Nonetheless, Lee Han informs the team that the brat SEO Yul has taken a week off before he leaves, so he asks them to call him and see if he's coming for a team dinner. The guy calls SEO Yul only to find that he's busy doing some overdue homework. Well, homework sounds like some effortless paperwork, but our dude's homework turns out to be an extermination quest, which is to clear out a wasp nest. Our fella makes an excuse that he's doing chores, leaving his team members hanging. SEO Yul reckons that only 3 days are left until the quest ends. He didn't expect it, but the queen bee is already pumping out her soldiers. The bee army approaches him, but it doesn't really matter to our boy because, in the end, all he has to do is to kill the queen. While SEO Yul assumes that he's going up against some regular bees, he's proven wrong when he witnesses swarm fits, the kind of bees that fire stingers like bullets. Our fella is overwhelmed because swarm fits take a lot of energy to create, and the queen usually avoids making them. But that is not the case here. He wonders if the queen bee had them ready beforehand. Nonetheless, putting all those assumptions aside, our boy decides not to waste any more time, or else he'll be surrounded by the enemy in no time. Before that happens, SEO Yul utilizes the labyrinth traps to handle the swarm fits, while his sphere keeps the enemy off balance. While the bees are distracted by the sphere, our fella takes this chance to reach the nest to find the queen bee. However, he's attacked by the bees, who suddenly change their patterns. Dubious, SEO Yul deduces that these bees are clinging to the ground to avoid the sphere's pull. But another reason could be that the bees are protecting the queen. Our main character then narrates that the queen bee has been watching him this whole time. Weird enough, our boy feels honored that the queen is using all that tiny brain power just to kill him, but he's got a plan of his own. Since he can't respawn labyrinth monsters right now because the labyrinth boss is dead, our hero has a single ultimate move to pull off. With that, SEO Yul opens the way to the labyrinth, pulling in all the bare minimum of monsters, and then plans on escaping as fast as he can. Just like that, he clears his way from the swarm-fit bastards, and then uses his sphere to finally get his hands on the queen, who's been hiding for quite a while now. Queen Scepter at last shows herself, but her nest is not penetrable. Shortly, our guy notices that the queen's pheromones are getting intense, predicting that she's sending a signal for the rest of her swarm. To confirm this, SEO Yul activates his sixth sense when suddenly a giant bee materializes, striking him. It turns out that the Queen Scepter was calling her ultimate weapon, Winglash. Winglash chases after our boy like a possessed psycho. Freaking out, SEO Yul didn't think the queen would actually breed one of those gluttons, supposing that she must be really desperate to stop him. But on a positive side, our hero contemplates that if the queen bee has brought her last resort, which is Winglash, this means once this guy is gone, the queen will be wide open. SEO Yul strategically positions himself to send that bastard Winglash inside the labyrinth. However, his attempt goes futile when Winglash cuts off its own arm to escape the sphere. At that point, our boy faces a major conundrum because there's no way to defeat Winglash and the Queen, who have become a pain in the ass. After countless attempts, SEO Yul's ultimate plan takes a complete 180-degree turn. Things go off script because, as his final resort, he had to trap Winglash and the Queen in the Labyrinth, which is basically his domain. Our guy advises those two that he wouldn't dare to move if he were them, but his dumbass realizes that there's no point in talking to monsters anyway, convinced that he's losing it. It appears that SEO Yul renovated the Labyrinth, which means he could set traps wherever he wanted, in any path. So just as the bees attack him, he activates the steel rain trap to send a rain of steel arrows their way. However, Winglash, living up to his name, evades the arrows, and he remarkably protects the Queen and the nest with a single flap of his wings. Regardless of Winglash's awe-striking reflexes, SEO Yul's steel rain trap has more to unpack because it occurs that the arrows aren't being shot from just one direction, but from every side. With that, the arrows penetrate through Winglash, ripping its body apart. The death of Winglash leaves the queen bee and the nest in grave danger. Our boy had learned from past experiences and installed the whole damn place with traps just to deal with them. Now that the queen's ultimate weapon is gone, SEO Yul can easily take down the queen bee. After the Winglash swarm is wiped out, it's just SEO and the queen left. He charges at her, being fully aware that the queen's armor is tough enough to deflect a hail of steel. If so, he judges that it will be hard to pierce even with his strongest attack. He plans on digging into the inside of her armor rather than wasting his strength pointlessly now. Suddenly, a surge of power comes out from her, making Yul realize that she isn't just going to stay curled up. There are still 3 days left on the quest timer. Even though our guy has plenty of time, he wants to finish this now. He believes that if he leaves the labyrinth just because he has time to spare, it'll look like he ran away from here. With that, he casts the trap Blast Block. Up next, he plans to unleash a very potent attack, but it's a martial art with an equally powerful destructive force. SEO feels like if he's going to use this technique for the first time, he should use it on the queen. By using the technique Crimson Lotus, our hunter successfully completes the quest. While the system congratulates him on defeating the Queen Scepter, our protagonist recalls how he has saved many people up until now. Yet, in the end, he was just a weakling who was helpless in the face of truly strong monsters. That's why he's certain of it today once again, that there will be no more running away for him. He's notified about the quest reward items being sent to his inventory. The reward he receives is a poison stinger, a rare item with 12% more attack speed. SEO plans on using it depending on the situation, but he is more focused on another item he received, the Queen Scepter's Royal Jelly. Queen Scepter's Royal Jelly alters your constitution to dramatically increase mana sensitivity upon consumption. However, it does have some side effects. When Yul pulls out a trap, mana is automatically consumed. Hence, as the number of traps increases, he needs to raise his maximum mana too. As he takes a bite out of the Royal Jelly, an overwhelming amount of condensed mana begins circulating around his entire body, trying to burst out. SEO is determined not to let it go to waste after everything he did to get this. He needs to circulate the mana's flow with his breathing as much as possible and force his blood vessels to accept the true chi. With that, our hero successfully transforms into the special constitution. He can feel it immediately that his overall bodily senses have heightened. All this from a single piece of royal jelly. The stats reveal that his mana has increased by 390 points. And this is exactly why he put his life on the line doing these high-risk quests. He can't help but ponder about what the side effects will be, but then he decides to ignore it and focus on it later. After that, he starts incorporating the new labyrinth monsters. The only monsters left in the labyrinth right now are a few red goblins, which makes SEO realize that no matter how strong he gets, there's a definite limit to what he can do completely alone. Hence, he decides to restock on the monsters. A new trap called Lake of Decay is unlocked by defeating the Queen Scepter. If you submerge the corpse of a monster or an awakened hunter in the lake, the corpse's EXP or traits are transferred to a designated labyrinth monster, which means if Yul targets the Lake of Decay's effect on this beehive, all the eggs will grow stronger at once. The eggs in the beehive have now been incorporated as labyrinth monsters. Our protagonist chooses the egg that looks bigger than the others and makes it the boss, naming it Vespa. He claims he will bring him some tasty prey from now on. Later, we see Jongmin and Seo enjoying the treat given to them by Lee Jong-hae. Jongmin lets slip that she must be secretly worried about Yul's dangerous request, to which Yul wonders why she's late if that's truly the case. It appears that it's not the first time that she's late, because Jongmin doesn't seem surprised at all. He asks Seo about his activities recently, since they have only a few days left until they head down to their new deployment. Our hunter reveals that he spent all his time getting food for the guy he's raising. Jongmin couldn't help but question if he's raising an exotic pet or something. Seo further reveals that he retook the rank test at the director's suggestion. His fellow hunter lets him know that he's the biggest weirdo among their peers. Also, after ignoring it for a while now, Jungmin finally asks Yul if he's also feeling that everyone around them is staring at him. SEO totally agrees, playfully wondering if his pal somehow got more handsome over his vacation or something. Jungmin, no matter how he looks at it, doesn't think that's the case at all. That is when Jonghye arrives, casually asking if they've cooked all the meat yet. Yul remarks that she's pretty shameless for someone who's late, and hands her the task of cooking the rest of the meat now. His words are cut off when he suddenly notices Jonghye's nose bleeding. It appears that Jonghye is not feeling very well, as she attempts to cook the meat with her eyes completely closed. Jungmin insists that he will cook his own meat, but she refuses to let him do that, saying that their Nuna will grill it for them today, to which Jungmin tells her to at least keep her eyes open while she does it. SEO urges her to hand over the meat tongs as she's making him nervous and the grill is getting too hot. Jonghye opens one eye to look at him, but for some unknown reason, SEO Yul appears incredibly sexy to her. Not being able to take it anymore, she smashes her head on the table, knocking herself out cold. Our guy gets completely baffled, wondering what on earth is wrong with her and why she's acting like that. At the same time, a woman from a nearby table approaches him, intending to say something, but SEO excuses himself before telling her to call an ambulance for his friend. The woman, without hesitating, asks for his phone number instead, catching him in utter disbelief. He can't help but contemplate if she's actually serious right now given the situation. That's when it finally hits him. First Jonghye and now this random lady, making him realize that it must be the mysterious side effect he was warned about before. After a while, Jonghye chugs down a whole can of soda before finally getting back to her senses. She glances at SEO, clarifying that she just spaced out for a second. Jongmin, feeling concerned, tells her to stop working so much overtime at the bureau. Our hunter, on the contrary, being well aware that it's actually his fault, lets out a relieved smile. It seems that the special constitution he gained from the royal jelly, the late bloom peach blossom aura, operates just as a queen bee controls her workers with pheromones. Yul didn't realize that it had the passive side effect of alluring the opposite sex. It's a pain, but he believes he'll have to be very careful now, because if he doesn't stay focused, the pheromones will keep spreading automatically. His thoughts are interrupted when Jonghye suddenly confesses that she might have actually fallen for him at that moment, reasoning that her heart wouldn't race that much just because she's tired from work. SEO gives her a weird look before telling her that she really needs to go see a doctor. They both start messing around, and amidst that shared laughter, our hunter realizes that it's been a long while since he's had a normal, peaceful day like this. He's been so intensely focused on getting stronger lately, which makes him feel like he deserves a day of peace, at least for today. Because once he goes down there to his new post, there won't be any peace for a while. Meanwhile, in the Hunter's Rescue Department building, the doctor hands the test results of SEO's rank reevaluation to the chief. The chief learns that it's a 7.5 magnitude, and since the S-rank cutoff is 7.8, Yul is basically operating at the exact same level as an S-rank hunter. The doctor believes that even just leaking this data to the media would do wonders for the Bureau's public reputation. The chief, on the contrary, implies that they should keep this strictly between them, and upon being questioned as to why, he states that he doesn't want to burden SEO with excessive spotlight just yet. Furthermore, he thinks that when the time is right, his true strength will come out on its own. The scene then shifts to the ship, where our protagonist catches a breath of relief. Turns out, he was being chased by his manager all the way to the docks because he left without finishing his final report. Nonetheless, SEO, after taking a look around the deck, finds it strange that there are barely any people on board for a ship of this massive size. Just then, a young kid approaches him, asking him if he's heading to Ulleungdo Island too. Yul tells him that he's going there, curious as to why the boy asked. The kid reasons that he rarely ever sees anyone new on this ship, hence the reason why he asked him that. SEO asks him if he takes this ship often, and that's when the kid reveals that he takes it on the anniversary of his parents' death to visit their graves with his grandmother. Our guy can't help but feel sorry for him, to which the boy quickly assures him that it's okay as it happened a very long time ago. Regardless, he warns Yul to be careful in Ulleungdo because it's an incredibly dangerous place, even though he lives there himself. The grandmother then walks up to them asking the kid, Jiho, if he got something to drink, to which he handily passes her favorite beverage. SEO is surprised to see how remarkably mature the kid is despite his young age. Ulleungdo is notorious for being one of the high-risk zones, where active gates appear frequently despite the land's small size. But there aren't enough awakened hunters stationed there to manage them properly. That's why its safety ratings have been at the absolute bottom for consecutive years. And even government subsidies have reportedly been cut. Despite that, the reason the residents don't leave is simply because it's their home. Suddenly, the vessel is attacked by a giant octopus, and at the exact same time, our boy receives a notification to exterminate the Kraken before it fully awakens from its deep hibernation. The emergency quest comes with strict restrictions, and the failure penalty is also incredibly tough. Our boy, upon learning about this sudden quest, realizes that the system is basically telling him he cannot leave the island area until it's dead. But SEO wasn't planning on leaving anyway, not until he completely solves the problem. Meanwhile, in the Ulleungdo Bureau branch, the performance report for the rescue department is being concluded. The branch manager there, holding a cigarette in one hand and playing cards in the other, learns that there's absolutely no difference in clearance progress from last month. He instructs his assistant to keep it that way and tells him to get right back to work if he's done reporting. A guy, who turns out to be the branch manager's younger brother, Do Hyeon, reminds him that the rescue chief position was supposed to be given to him. That's when his brother reveals to him that on Chief Bak Gwang-soo's direct orders, some outsider arriving tomorrow has taken the spot instead. The branch manager further reveals that the newcomer is the exact same guy who recently messed with the Overcross Guild. His brother, feeling enraged, questions if Director Baek Jun-hwan sent him here to spy on them, but that's not the case. Nonetheless, the supervisor states that Overcross and them, they basically scratch each other's backs, so they have to look out for each other's mutual interests. Hence, he advises his little brother to give our guy a very warm welcome when he arrives tomorrow. Furthermore, he secretly declares that if Do Hyeon makes him disappear from the island completely, they'll get a massive reward from Overcross, and the vacant rescue chief position will be his anyway. In a brief flashback, we see the headquarters chief warning Seo of the plenty of systemic problems Ulleungdo is facing right now. But the first major mess he warns him of is within the rescue department itself, specifically the Ulleungdo branch manager, Cha Seok-hyun. He keeps the closest eye on the rescue department. It's revealed that he confiscates the valuable mana stones the rescue department harvests from killed monsters and has been pocketing the entire profit for himself this whole time. But headquarters can't easily fire him since he's got too much political backing, and every single person they send down there to replace him ends up quitting before they even settle in. The chief feels helpless, because even though everyone knows Seok-hyun is deeply corrupt, he somehow keeps the island's defense grid running. That's why he's counting heavily on Seo. He lets him know that he won't even publicly announce how long Yul will be staying there, claiming he will pull some bureaucratic strings on his end too. To sum it all up, the chief tells Yul that the whole power dynamic of the island changes, depending entirely on his results. The scene then shifts back to the present, where our hunter, upon reaching the local branch building, finds its physical maintenance to be a total shit show. He's officially welcomed by Yoon Sung-jae, the primary healer of the rescue department. Seung-jae informs him that 7 of the active members are out on a routine patrol right now, while the remaining officers are waiting inside the office. In the office, the team members are busy playing cards and loudly arguing with each other when they finally notice Seung-jae and SEO Yul entering. They wonder who the unfamiliar young guy is, to which our protagonist firmly announces that he's the one who'll be giving orders to them from now on. One of the veteran guys jokes around as he realizes that this must be the infamous guy who got kicked out of headquarters for running his mouth to the executives. He mockingly offers Yul a drink to welcome him to the team, and the others cheer along with him, until Yul suddenly flings the bottle away with immense force, causing it to shatter and spill all over the card table. He then rigidly addresses everyone, informing them that from now on, they're cleaning this entire facility until there isn't a single speck of dust left. The same guy who joked before gets instantly pissed off, cursing loudly at Seo as he intends to fight him, when Cha Do-hyun, the brother of the branch manager, steps in to stop him. He tells Yul that he understands he is excited about the sudden promotion, but lets him know that they have a certain established way of doing things around this island. Our hunter, after closely analyzing his facial features, remarks that Do Hyeon has got a real nasty face on him, suggesting that they drop the official ranks right now and have a quick sparring round. Do Hyeon reminds him that Yul is officially registered as a D rank, ensuring if he's still up for the beating. Seo claims he will leave the island without a single word if he loses, while for Do Hyeon, he suggests that he better head straight up to the hospital afterward, because with a broken face like that, the local townspeople might mistake him for a monster. The other squad members couldn't help but burst out laughing, infuriating the branch manager's brother even more. He curses loudly before intending to land a heavy punch on Seo, but he is punched brutally across the jaw instead. He groans in immense pain as Yul tells him that today's the absolute last time he'll ever have to use his bare fists on him, because he's sure that after this, Do-hyun won't even dream of talking back to him again. Do-hyun blindly leaps at him in a rage, but he is hit again and again by Seo's precise counters until he's finally quiet on the floor. Now that the most rebellious bastard in the office has quieted down, Seo turns to ask the others if there's anyone else who wants a piece of him. The remaining hunters feel deeply intimidated, not daring to challenge Seo's monstrous physical speed. While they stand frozen, he calmly orders the healer to fix the ugly bastard up. In another building, we see the branch manager, Cha Seok-hyun, busy playing cards when a subordinate rushes to him, intending to inform him of something. Seok-hyun angrily reminds him that he explicitly told him not to disturb his game, to which the guy quickly apologizes, revealing that the matter is urgent. He whispers the news of his brother's defeat into Seok-hyun's ear, catching him completely by surprise. Meanwhile, back in the office, our boy instructs them that as long as they are on the clock, they are to think about absolutely nothing but saving civilian lives. What they choose to do after work hours is none of his concern. When no one answers him right away, Yul angrily demands that they state their answer. To give them real financial motivation to work properly, he claims he will personally speak to the higher-ups at headquarters to secure a 15% salary increase for all of them. Upon hearing the news of a raise, the local hunters are in absolute shock, wondering if that's even administratively possible. Yul, knowing that this is a high-risk monster zone and considering the calamity that's coming, is fully confident the Bureau will approve the emergency budget. But first, he believes that their work ethic needs to change. For that, he tells them to be geared up and ready for tomorrow's field shift. His attention is suddenly diverted when Cha Xiaoqian shows up at the doorway, letting out a laugh and saying that he's looking forward to seeing that raise approved. With that, he introduces himself as the branch manager, wondering if his boys have given the new chief a sufficiently warm welcome. Yul remarks that it was a very intense welcome, especially the part from Cha Do-hyun. He wonders aloud what brought the branch manager all the way down here, to which Xiaoqian clarifies that the rescue department is a division he personally oversees, implying heavily that he can stop by whenever he pleases, with or without an official reason. He states that he's just here to introduce himself for now, but if Yul needs any logistical support in the future, he should let him know, and he'll help him out as much as he can. Our hunter completely passes on the polite offer, letting him know that the branch manager was so busy playing cards all day that he probably didn't read the latest urgent message sent from the Central Bureau. It's revealed by Yul that as of today, Ulleungdo has been officially declared an active disaster zone. In a state of emergency, certain essential departments can operate entirely independently of local branch managers. That's why SEO firmly declares that from now on, the rescue department will answer only to him. Hence, the corrupt branch manager has only one job left to do today, and that is to get the hell out of his office. Active gates appear across all sorts of unpredictable terrain. That's why you can't rely on standard textbook raid formations here. You have to adapt your strategy to the immediate environment, and that's exactly what SEO Yul is doing. The hunters under his command are a bit skeptical about his bizarre commands, not entirely sure if it's going to work in the field. Our guy believes that it might look weird to them, but he has an item that shows exact monster coordinates. Hence, he suggests that they just deal with his directions. However, it seems that's not their main problem. Their primary concern is that their only 2 ranged damage dealers are placed on the absolute front line, and SEO has turned every other dealer except the healer into a pure defensive tanker. There's a high possibility that they all get instantly wiped out if something goes wrong with the front line. According to Yul, with this few people currently available, this customized bottleneck formation is the only mathematical way to minimize team casualties. Therefore, he tells everyone to stop worrying and get ready since the monsters are coming. The local hunters don't see anything in the sky yet, while SEO accurately informs them that the target is northwest 43 degrees, altitude 50. He instructs the ranged hunters to aim and fire, and the attacks hit perfectly on a hidden flock of harpies, taking them down all at once. The hunters are in utter disbelief at the perfect call, but they are quickly told to focus on preparing for the second oncoming wave. SEO confidently assures them that he won't even let the monsters get close enough to touch them. Later, in the branch manager's office, the performance report for this month reveals a staggering 98% quest success rate and an 85% increase in civilian trust. Seok Hyeon can't believe how our hunter managed to completely double the branch's efficiency results in just 1 month. He can't help but wonder if that's why the old man Bak Gwang-soo backed him so heavily for this position. He finds his brother, Do-hyun, to be a massive problem too, since he's not even managing his subordinates anymore. Seeing Do-hyun train out in the yard all alone, Seok-hyun wonders why his brother is down there training right alongside the rookies team. Just then, he receives director Baek Jun-hwan's call on his private line, the one he's been desperately waiting for. The director seems to be fully aware of the massive systemic changes Ulleungdo has gone through since Seo arrived, expressing his executive concern over Seok-hyun's slipping position. Seok-hyun is glad that he's aware of it, wondering if the director could help bail him out just this once. To his surprise, Jun-hwan politely refuses to assist him, reasoning that they need to keep a very low profile regarding the island's finances for now. The branch manager implies that it would be a massive financial loss for the director too if Yul's corporate influence grows any further. The director believes it would be a shame if they couldn't do business anymore, but as long as Seo stays in Ulleungdo for his mandatory 6-month dispatch, he thinks things will settle fine. It seems that Seok Hyeon wasn't previously aware of the exact 6-month duration of the dispatch, which triggers his anger even more. Jun-hwan, looking at the data, believes that the duration doesn't seem to matter much anyway. Hence, if Yul settles in there and cleans up the active gates, he thinks it'll actually be better for their long-term security. Frustrated, the branch manager states that the director acting like this doesn't affect his survival plan at all. He bitterly asks the old man if he thinks he's just going to step down quietly about the fact that he's been secretly dealing with the Overcross Guild behind the Bureau's back. The director coldly warns him to do whatever he wants, provided he can actually handle the lethal consequences of threatening him. Seok-hyun instantly realizes his mistake and nervously apologizes, while the old man tells him to watch his mouth from now on. That is, if he's even still alive in that manager position by the end of the month. The branch manager feels like he's going to lose absolutely everything at this rate, not knowing what move to make next. Moreover, the compliance auditors at headquarters are already requesting another formal financial investigation into his branch. At this critical point, he realizes that elimination is the only way left if he wants to survive. Director Bayek cuts the call and politely apologizes to the person sitting across from him in his office, who is a powerful foreign hunter named Reika, saying that a little local pest was being quite annoying. He confirms that her next deployment location is Ulleungdo Island too, before asking her for a small private favor since she's heading down there anyway. On the other hand, back at the training grounds, Seo catches everyone's attention in order to introduce them to his invited associate. Jang Gun-soo gives his introduction first, revealing to the squad that he's a ranking master from the Korea Martial Arts Association, and that he's going to be leading today's advanced mana manipulation training for the rescue team. Everyone is incredibly excited about the fact that they're going to learn real martial arts from a peer of the legendary S-class hunter, Kang Tae-san. Jun-soo announces that he'll be teaching them the Yupa style today, a specialized martial technique that uses internal mana to disperse physical impact. He gives them a live demonstration, alongside teaching them that if they can harness the natural flow of mana, they can block basic monster attacks as shown, because most ordinary hunters mistakenly think mana is only meant for active skills. Gaeun-soo encourages them to come up and try it themselves, and Cha Do-hyun is quick to volunteer, arrogantly assuming that it looks pretty simple. He decides to give it a shot, but the next thing we see is him getting knocked down and beaten up again and again by the master's smooth counters. Seo lets everyone know that it's not nearly as easy as it seems, since even a high defense type got completely knocked down. With that, he instructs everyone to split up and start their daily training sets. After a while, we see our hunter thanking Gaeun-soo for coming all the way out to the island, to which the master thinks it's nothing, and is glad that the local hunters are working much harder than he originally expected. However, out of all of them, he finds one specific man's potential different. Yul reveals that the man is their main defensive tanker, Han Kang-moo. Just then, Gaeun-soo stops as he hears the distinct howling of wolves near the local village, which is strange when there aren't supposed to be any native wolves on Ulleungdo Island. Gyun-soo makes sure to ask if they aren't rogue dungeon monsters, and Yul is positive that's not the case as there were no reports of a gate opening from the monitoring grid, until Yul suddenly activates his sixth sense, only to realize with horror that the biological signature belongs to a werewolf. He instantly rushes away into the forest, before loudly telling them to get the local residents to the emergency shelter immediately. The sudden werewolf ambush leaves everyone in utter disbelief. Fortunately, SEO Yul foresees the attack before the situation can escalate into a life-threatening scene. Our guy finds it odd because, normally before a dungeon break occurs, the branch manager is supposed to pass on the gate coordinates from headquarters. He fights those werewolves, ripping them into pieces with his spear, but things just don't add up for him. He ruminates on the fact that things have escalated this far, which means the branch manager, Seok-hyun, must have withheld the coordinates on purpose. Even if the manager wanted to ruin his reputation with casualties, this will automatically hurt him too. Our boy assumes that manager bastard wasn't even thinking that far ahead and decides to deal with him later. For now, he focuses on dealing with the werewolves and activates his Labyrinth level 3 trait. That's when the monsters are released from the labyrinth, while SEO Yul aims to intercept the enemy. Meanwhile, in Ulleungdo Shelter Number 2, the rescue department protects the gate and heals the injured workers. The violent werewolves try to break through the shelter gates, and the guy warns the rescuer, Sung-jae, that the first defense barrier is about to collapse. Sung-jae freaks out because the first barrier broke too soon. The hunter then commands Seung-jae to get behind the second barrier, since the wolves are breaking through faster than they anticipated. He then suggests that they should head out through the emergency exit and try another shelter. However, Sung-jae insists that the situation will be the same everywhere else, and since the manager isn't here, it's up to them to handle this. While the wolves are about to force their way in, Sung-jae, amid the risks, becomes determined to handle the situation. To think rationally, even the manager, SEO Yul, can't protect the shelter alone, because all 4 shelters have been ambushed by the werewolves. For this reason, SEO Yul left the hunters in charge to look after the shelters, while he himself went to stop the gate. The other rescue hunter feels like they'll die here, but Seung-jae tells him not to worry since they've got some basic attack skills that are enough for survival. Seung-jae ponders that he only started feeling hope in the rescue department after manager SEO Yul arrived. That's the very reason he gave his all in the training sessions. With that, the wolves frantically barge in, breaking through the gates, while Seung-jae feels pumped up because he's not the same person he was before. A surge of energy rushes through him, and he's ready to fight the wolves head-on. And just like that, Sung Jae awe-strikingly lands a blow with the weapon that pierces through the monster. On the contrary, somewhere in Ulungdo, the girl Reika, who is suspected to be sent by Baek Jun Hwan, is being chased by a wolf. As the wolf attacks her, Reika draws out her sword. However, at that moment, SEO Yul comes out of the blue, killing that wolf in a single spear strike. He is ambushed by another wolf, but the bees from the labyrinth attack the wolf, ripping its head off. The assassin, Reika, witnesses the sight, which is worthy of praise. She observes that our boy is an awakened, a powerful one at that. She's surprised that an awakened like this was even here. Just then, our boy leaves and suggests Reika head to the shelter instead of fighting. Since SEO Yul is swamped with work, he runs off to the next location. Our fella, followed by his labyrinth army, notices that the gate is gone. He used his mana, but bringing out the labyrinth monsters did get a good result against the werewolves. Besides, SEO Yul unlocks a new skill, Illusion Labyrinth. With that, our boy heads to help the others, when suddenly he halts his movement after hearing a howling echoing across the island. Since the roaring is so deafening, he suspects that it's the monster boss. While he's busy fighting the pack of wolves, SEO Yul is baffled about the monster boss's intentions. However, he knows one thing for sure. Things will get dangerous if the team runs into that thing. In that case, SEO Yul sends his soldiers, ordering the Swarmfit army to split in half and help the shelters. After that, our hero thinks it's the right time to pull out his secret weapon out of the labyrinth, who turns out to be a gigantic hornet, Vespa. The scene switches to the ship, where the residents appear terrified as they try to stay discreet while a rescue hunter, Chado Hyun, alone stands guard. The hunter can sense a malicious and formidable intent creeping in. That's when an inexplicable scenario occurs as the giant wolf sneak attacks the hunter. Chado Hyun regrets playing a role that doesn't suit him since he nearly bit the dust just now. Witnessing the boss wolf smash the ship like that, he deduces that its goal is clearly to keep the residents from escaping the island. The boss wolf possesses terrifyingly strong power that is about to trample that hunter. If that's the case, the hunter already accepts that he's going to die, and there's only one thing he can do. He keeps the boss wolf distracted so that the residents can run to save their lives. The hunter then activates the skill Taunt of Fury, thinking that he went kind of easy on this filthy boss bastard. In reality, Hunter Chado Hyun is just trying to buy some time for the residents to get away. However, in that split second, the boss lands a single blow that makes the hunter soar away with brute force, and it seems that it's the end for him. The boss wolf grabs Chado Hyun, who has been going through hell. At that moment, he questions himself. Why did he ever try to change his ways and choose kindness over carelessness? If it were the old him, he'd be hunkered down safely in a shelter instead of trying to be a goody two-shoes who is now on the brink of death. However, in his mind, a vision unfolds where his efforts as a rescue hunter are acknowledged by people for saving their son. That is the moment that melted his heart, and it was a rare yet beautiful feeling that he'd never experienced before. At that moment, the man feels as spirited as ever and releases himself by chopping off that monster's fingers. Just as the boss is about to shred Chado Hyun into bits between its fangs, things take a 180-degree turn when abruptly, the labyrinth opens. The labyrinth activates as a bright yellow flash illuminates, and in the next second, they enter SEO Yul's domain. It turns out that Cha mistakenly gets pulled into the labyrinth as well. He is left wonderstruck, assuming that it's a dungeon. Shortly, SEO Yul appears, impressed by his own skill that pulls someone into the labyrinth without using a sphere. On the other side, Chado Hyun recognizes the voice and witnesses his chief, SEO Yul. The hunter expresses his astonishment, and he's quite quick-witted to notice that our boy created this domain. Well, our fella is not that amused to see him and knocks him out because he saw something he shouldn't have. He gives that dude a potion and a sedative fused in one. Nonetheless, SEO Yul encounters the boss wolf and decides to tag out because from here on out, our hero will be the opponent instead of his clumsy subordinate. On the contrary, the rescue hunters at the shelters give it their all to take down the stubborn werewolves. The hunter who's fighting is on the verge of collapse as his arms tremble and his legs have already given out. And looking at Sung Jae's condition, that fella looks like he can barely stand. The situation seems to be getting out of hand now. The rescue hunter pushed himself to the limit in training, but he thinks there wasn't enough time to get strong. Just as the werewolves are about to rip Sung Jae to pieces, SEO Yul's Swarmfit army arrives on time, beheading the enemy one by one. The bee monster exudes jaw-dropping power and skills, taking down the enemy like it's a cinch. The hunters couldn't believe their eyes when they witnessed the bee monster defeating the enemy in an instant. After the bee glides away, Sung Jae thinks he's already dead because he's just been saved by a monster. Meanwhile, in the labyrinth, SEO Yul fights off the boss monster, admitting that this werewolf is the strongest boss he's encountered so far. Not to mention that this big guy is cunningly attacking while avoiding all the traps set within, which means the boss wolf's instinct and senses are pretty decent. SEO Yul, knowing that he's the one triggering the traps, deduces that the boss is actively dodging all the attacks, meaning they've got his full attention. Our guy then starts running, making the boss chase after him, when suddenly they break through the labyrinth's wall and the wolf gets wounded by blue fire. Our fella gets it. The boss is trying his best to be wary of the traps, but the werewolf totally forgot it has more things to be worried about. That's when SEO Yul utilizes his ultimate skill, Dragon Flame Heartbreaker, and a torrent of flames bursts forth, creating a giant hole in that werewolf's body. With that, the boss is brutally killed at the hands of our boy. Now with the gate closed and the boss defeated, all that's left is to clean up the stragglers. On the island, the Labyrinth army is taking down the rest of the werewolves. On the other hand, the subordinates from the surveillance division try calling out the branch chief since headquarters is calling for him. Strange enough, the branch chief does not respond at all, and the workers have been strictly ordered not to enter his room. But the situation seems to be spiraling out of control, so they have no choice but to barge into the room unannounced. With that, the girl musters up the courage to enter the room while the guy stays outside. He knows all about the manager's dirty play, and since the situation was resolved with 0 casualties, he thinks that stepping down will be the end of it. Suddenly, that guy from the surveillance division hears a noise, and upon entering the room, he witnesses the woman in a state of panic. It turns out that the branch manager had been murdered brutally, drenched in blood on the chair. Eventually, the night-long battle against the werewolves came to an end only when morning broke. While everything appears all right, it turns out that a new incident had occurred. They found the branch manager, Cha-seok Hyun, dropped dead in his office. A subordinate assumes that he might have been taken out by a werewolf, but judging from the scene, SEO Yul states that the place is too clean for that. Besides, manager Cha-seok Hyun was a B-rank hunter in his own right, so he had the capability to take down a wolf or two. This only leads them to suspect that the culprit is human, which triggers an even bigger question. Who on earth is the murderer? SEO Yul, witnessing how only the manager's thumbs were neatly severed, deduces that the murderer was likely a professional assassin for hire. Plus, that assassin was hella skilled, given that the person left no traces behind. But to kill an awakened, they have to use mana nonetheless. With all these details in mind, our guy gives the surveillance department a heads up that they will get busy from now on. But before that, SEO Yul immediately asks them to bring him the island's entry and exit records for the past week. The scene switches to the assassin girl, Reika, who's been tied down by ropes, and an anonymous voice from across the door tells her not to think of freedom and asks her to discard her emotions. The voice accentuates that the only reason Reika exists is for him, the head of this family. We then witness an ominous black figure. He warns the girl that there won't be a second chance, addressing her as Sanagi Mika. Just then, the girl jerks awake after that nightmare, and getting startled, she realizes that it's been a while since she's dreamed. The scene then flips back to the Ulleungdo Island, where the subordinate informs SEO Yul that the news about Cha-seok Hyun's murder has already spread among the residents. Well, that news was bound to get out eventually, but our fella highlights the core issue. They've halted the boat service for days, so people are bound to complain. While our guy asks how the situation is, the surveillance head assures him that everyone's fine, and, if anything, everyone's excited to hear that SEO Yul is becoming the next branch manager. Regardless, the guy opens up that there's a suspect for the murder who just needs to be tracked down. He then asks SEO Yul if he's planning to apprehend the murderer alone. Well, our boy unapologetically admits that he's the best when it comes to tracking. Besides, everyone else is busy rebuilding the village. Our boy feels like he should apprehend the culprit, but the problem is that every time he tries to track them down and narrow the gap, they vanish into thin air. He wonders what kind of skill that is, but he believes it's only a matter of time before he gets a hold of it. He dwells on the possibility and speculates that if the culprit is hiding because they sensed his skill, then he'll just have to find them out the old-fashioned way, on foot. Within the island, Reika seems to be wandering aimlessly when a little boy bumps into her, tripping on the ground. The boy smiles, admitting that it's his fault that he bumped into her and fell. As Reika watches the kids being so energetic, her smile fades, and the haunting memories of her past come flooding in. For someone like her, who has done nothing but kill since childhood, it's only natural that beautiful memories like this don't exist. That ominous figure who was the head of Reika's family tells her not to envy the kids because there's no escape for her anyway. He advises Reika not to bother with emotions or feelings. Suddenly, a grim, dark aura emerges, and she decides to just do what she was born to do. As night falls, SEO Yul's Labyrinth bee monster spots Reika standing by the sea. But as sharp as that girl assassin is, she immediately senses the monster's presence. The bee attacks Reika, who identifies that this monster belongs to SEO Yul. Well, at last, SEO Yul also exposes himself and addresses the girl as Natsume Aya, which is clearly not her name. Reika gets startled to see him, wondering how he found her so fast. Our boy refuses to disclose the details, but makes it clear that nothing escapes his sight. Reika does not even bother to play hide-and-seek anymore, drawing out her assassin sword. SEO Yul begs that woman to at least let him catch his breath since he rushed all the way here. But that assassin doesn't hold back, and our boy summons his spear as fast as possible. Their weapons collide, and SEO Yul suggests Reika surrender quietly. Plus, he has quite a few questions for her. Strangely, a dark aura materializes beneath her, and the assassin girl slips through that dark hole, vanishing into the shadows. A realization hits SEO Yul when he comprehends how this assassin is evading his detection. Reika sneakily emerges from behind to ambush him, but our boy detects her shenanigans. SEO Yul evades her attack, landing a powerful kick. He assumes that if the assassin emerges from the shadows to attack, then he can definitely hit her. Meanwhile, Reika is low-key worried because our hero turns out to be just as strong as she feared. Not to mention that just blocking his strikes made her arm go numb. She can't afford to hesitate any longer. It appears that the assassin leans to her last resort since she has nowhere to escape. Reika blows air into the flute while our boy rushes hysterically, sensing an impending danger. He doesn't know what the hell she's planning, but he feels the need to stop her before things escalate. Suddenly, a tentacle bursts forth, circling around SEO Yul to trap him. That's when a subjugation quest appears in front of our hero. Shocked, he wonders what the hell that flute was, because if that's it, it means that assassin is waking up the Kraken. While that assassin summons an octopus monster through the flute, our fella gets even more curious. He supposes that Reika isn't planning to run away after summoning some freak. Struggling, our boy finds it hard to break free of these tentacles by force, so he also decides to use the ultimate plan. He summons Vespa, the Queen Hornet, and commands it to apprehend the girl. Vespa fails to seize Reika as she vanishes into thin air. The boy struggles to break free from the Kraken, so he orders the Hornet to trail down that woman. Vespa rushes to obey his orders while he tries to undo the Kraken's tough hold on him. Yul wasn't planning on fighting him yet, but it seems that the Kraken wants to do it. With that, he awakens the unique effect, Roga, which evolves into a form that matches the user's will and fights the Kraken. Meanwhile, Vespa manages to find the lady assassin, who is taken completely aback by the sudden attack. She didn't even notice the Hornet approaching her. After fighting the Hornet, Reika realizes that its attacks are faster and stronger than expected. She wanted to take out her pursuer first, but now she has no choice but to ignore him and escape first. Vespa activates the Silent Sense, causing severe damage to Reika. She is in utter disbelief as to how a monster can use an assassination skill, and a sense-erasing one at that. She furiously rushes towards Vespa, warning her not to underestimate humans, when suddenly she finds it incredibly difficult to breathe. Her body feels like it's on fire, and that's when she realizes that she's been poisoned. Just as Reika thinks that it's her end, SEO gets there and whacks Vespa for trying to kill her when he clearly instructed her to subdue her. At that moment, he realizes that feeding her monsters and awakened criminals made her strong, which is great, but the problem is that she's developed too much of an ego. Reika refuses to believe that he defeated the Kraken, to which SEO lets her know that it ran away. Our guy reveals that he managed to land a solid blow at the Kraken while being inside the water. Moreover, he still had 2 more chances left, and catching her is his main priority right now, hence the reason he's here. The female assassin refuses to spill anything even after being caught. Yul figured as much, and even though he didn't want to use it, he has no choice if he wants to end this quickly. He activates the pheromone secretion, asking her if she's ready to cooperate yet. Reika is confused about what he's trying to pull until her heart starts beating faster. She wonders if it's another type of poison, but she feels so at peace despite her heart rate increasing. The female assassin accepts her fate as she realizes that she has nowhere left to run. Therefore, she chooses to trust Yul and tell him everything she knows. In exchange, she wants to be freed from these shackles. Our hunter judges that she has a complicated situation, hence he decides to help her out if she cooperates. In the Overcross headquarters, the Rodeo Palace, Director Junhwan returns after a gate raid. He asks his subordinate if there is any word from that female assassin. The subordinate believes that the director's request was successful, but they haven't heard from her directly. The old man assumes that she might have died somewhere or been captured by SEO Yul. The subordinate wonders if there's a chance that she might leak their request, but Juan is pretty sure she won't do that. He's convinced that she knows better than anyone that talking is pointless. If she's caught, she'll take her own life. Hence, the biggest issue right now for him is SEO's influence, which has been growing faster than expected. He's baffled as to why he keeps trying to climb up when he should have just stayed there and played house quietly. Referring to him as a troublesome bug, the old man calls someone. A few days have passed since those incidents. First, regarding Chaseok Hyun's assassination, it ended with the culprit vanishing without a trace. Afterward, SEO was appointed as the acting branch manager, and he immediately cleaned up the hunters involved in Seok's corruption and paid out bonuses to the team members who had worked so hard. Now, our hunter has been dealing with Reika's problem. She reveals that the Tokugawa clan that her family serves has deep ties to Baekjun Hwan, and that's exactly why they gave her the assassination contract. SEO thought that Hwan was just a sly fox targeting him, but he's really running completely wild. After that, our boy questions Reika. What does her Tokugawa clan plan to do with the Kraken? The girl assassin responds that they were raising the Kraken as a test subject to strengthen the clan's power. Upon hearing this, SEO Yul contemplates that the clan might use that test subject monster as an international bargaining chip. Nonetheless, he decides to dump all this complicated politics aside now, because what matters the most is that the Kraken is awake, which puts the islanders in grave danger. Being considerate, our boy reminds Reika that he decided to help because of their promise, but also because she hesitated to wake the Kraken. Even so, he doesn't go easy on her because if Reika was just following her clan's order, her sins for murdering someone aren't erased. So while SEO Yul helps her, he also plans to punish her. The assassin agrees to accept any punishment he gives her. From then on, our fella commands her to follow his orders and save as many people as she can. That is Reika's punishment because all she has done in her life is kill mindlessly. And now it's a real test for her to save lives, even if she doesn't want to. The female assassin finds it ironic that her punishment demands she lives the exact opposite of how she's lived until now. Reika decides to follow SEO Yul's order to save lives, which surprises our fella because of how quickly she made up her mind. Hence, for the sake of her true freedom, our boy starts by changing Reika's name. Shortly, our branch manager is interrupted by Hunter Seong-jae, who barges in hysterically, revealing that a Kraken has appeared. It turns out the Kraken awakening is all over the news, and now all the residents are gossiping about it too. SEO Yul gets a bit frustrated since he was planning to hurry to control the situation, but everything's moving faster than expected. Meanwhile, Seong-jae feels peculiar since he never thought the monster in the nearby waters would be a Kraken. This leads to him questioning who knew it was a Kraken and reported it to begin with. Well, it wasn't the residents, which leads them to speculate who it might be. In the next moment, director Baek Jun-hwan appears on the news after getting the request from the government to eliminate the Kraken, but he refuses, reasoning it would be difficult for them. That old bastard dumps this responsibility on SEO Yul by mentioning that he's a capable branch manager who can manage on his own. Smirking, Baek Jun-hwan claims that he'll send support if Ulleungdo asks for it. Seong-jae immediately speculates that Baek is the one behind the news outbreak, and SEO Yul is happy for his quick-witted response. The reason why Seong-jae points out director Baek is because he strongly believes that this old man is clearly connected to Cha Seo-kyun and his murder. Yawning, our fella advises his junior subordinate not to overthink and highlights one thing for him. If they do what Baek Jun-hwan says, he'll just keep walking over them. The plan is simple. They just don't do whatever that old hag says. Just then, the branch manager alerts everyone to get ready, declaring that they'll be taking down the Kraken. Upon hearing this, silence falls over the room, but soon the team is thrown into an uproar. SEO Yul elucidates that they don't have time to wait for other hunters. He then addresses Hunter Chado Hyeon, saying that it's his time to shine. On the contrary, on the island, the sharks are hunting for their food in the sea when suddenly they're captured by the Kraken hidden in the shallow waters. Enraged, the Kraken is hell-bent on making the guy pay for the humiliation and scaring him, referring to SEO Yul. Later, all the forces gather to take down the Kraken. Seong-jae dubiously asks SEO Yul if they can handle this, but our boy plans on finding that out later. It turns out that our dude was being sarcastic and assures the hunters they've got a real shot at this. With that, he shows an item that is perfect for today's match. The item is Sea Dragon Boots with a legendary grade, and the effect is even crazier. It allows the wearer to run on water. The second item is a Deep Jade Orb that allows the user to breathe underwater when consumed. Seong-jae is amused by the items, and so he asks the branch manager if he bought these items. While it sounds like our boy sent for them, he reveals that a package arrived this morning from a place called Wizard Kingdom. It was sent by someone named Ian, who's a griffin. Our fella has never seen a griffin respond like that before. Upon hearing this, Seong-jae freaks out because that name and griffin ring a bell in his mind. The hunter then unravels that Wizard Kingdom is a specialized item development guild, and Ian Graham is that guild's mysterious genius wizard. Even the items the rescue department uses were all made by Ian. SEO Yul is still baffled as to why Ian Graham would send him such rare items. Plus, he didn't even know the wizard was such a big deal. But Seong-jae expresses his curiosity, wondering why the wizard would send something to the branch manager. Well, that's when our fella mentions a note Ian sent him, which said that he just wanted to help as a fan. Just then, Cha Do-hyun calls out to the branch manager, who pumped him up by saying that it's his time to shine. While Cha activates his skill, Stench, in the water, he couldn't really understand how exactly he's shining. Our guy reveals that Cha Do-hyun's skill is the only way they can lure the Kraken, and that's more than enough of a contribution. It's like he's using Cha as bait. Honestly, SEO Yul wanted to keep it safe, but since the flute, which was their only option to lure the Kraken, is broken, he had to use Cha Do-hyun's skill, which is a crude method. Even so, if he keeps spreading this much stench underwater, the monster won't be able to resist and has to show itself whatsoever. Meanwhile, the other hunter curses Cha Do-hyun because the stench he's releasing is pungent. He wonders why Cha even has that skill, since it's a failed build. Upon hearing this, Cha Do-hyun asks him to shut up, but he really finds it impossible for the Kraken to show up just because of his stench. While the boy is doubting his skills, the inevitable happens, and the Kraken frantically materializes to the surface. Hence, mission accomplished. Cha Do-hyun nearly pisses his pants when he witnesses a massive tentacle bursting out of the water and calls out to the branch manager. SEO Yul immediately commands everyone to stand at their stations, and from this point on, their Kraken hunt begins.